Tell you a funny story about that town too.
Hello, everybody. Another Thursday night at Plan and Traffic. And my name is Lewis Lee, and we enjoy talking about cars, boats, trucks, anything you put gas in. Got my man Ray from Motor Mouth Radio. What's up, Ray?
Yes, sir. Ray Guarino here, holding up the back end. Yeah, just keeping it real. Keeping it real. We're just talking about Ohio. All right, something you know a little bit about.
Yep.
I on my Sunday show, we were talking about a trip that I made with my brother. He went out to Colorado to visit my sister on a vacation and saw a 55 Nomad. He had one at home, but he saw this one, which was real nice shape. The only time he couldn't wait to end the vacation to get home to wire the money back to this guy so that we could load up a toolbox. Those were the days we had a Craftsman toolbox that went on that was our luggage.
Yeah.
So when that thing came down the luggage rack, you had to hear it. And we flew one way back out to Colorado and drove this car home with whatever prep we could do in my sister's driveway. Mm-hmm. And long story short was we did lose. We had an axle bearing that was given out on us, and we just ignored it. We were doing Vice Grip Garage before Vice Grip Garage, and lost the rear wheel and axle in Toledo, Ohio, just outside of we just gassed up, full tank of gas. We come inches from going down the ravine.
Oh my goodness!
It was Sunday, so the guy tows us over to the town of Maumee, which I said, "What the hell is Maumee?" And the funny part is now we're walking around this town, and I'm like, it's like the Twilight Zone. I don't recognize anything. There's restaurants there I never heard of. Sodas in machines I never heard the name of. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And we were laid over for a day. It ends up, I found out later on that Maumee is like the atypical test bed in the United States, or one of them at least, where they try out new products.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And the sodas that we saw, a little while later, we saw them here in New York. We actually ate at Chili's. And we didn't have the Chili's didn't come here till a couple of years later. But all the stuff we saw there came here. That's what made me do some research. Now, this is going back in the 80s, so there was no internet. I don't even remember how I found the information out, but Maumee is the town, one of the towns where they considered it typical America. And that's where they would test out all this stuff. And if it sold, they'd market it. If not, it was scrappy. So
I learned something new.
So did I. So and plus the kid that was working on the car on his lunch break had a really nice Grand Prix. And he's washing his car, and like he's got the windows open. Like, dude, shut the windows. Oh no, I gotta clean the inside too. Opens the doors and he's hosing out the carpets. I was like, what are you doing, man? Well, me and my girlfriend were at the lake this weekend, and we got all sorts of sand in here, and I got to clean it out. I'm like, did you hear of a vacuum? He said, you're going to rot these floorboards out. But yeah, he did a lot of other stupid stuff, too. I actually wrote a story about it. I'll send it to you. I was going to publish it. The problem is I had people look at it, and they said, it's kind of long for a story, but it reads really fast. So it's kind of too long for a magazine story, too short to be anything bigger. And they said, you either got to really cut it down or go long and make a book out of it. So I don't know, maybe one day.
You're retired.
I've been told by people who don't like to read anything that they've read that story over and over again because it was that easy to read. And so I will send you a copy of it.
Yeah, that's hard to do, for sure.
Yeah. But, because I wrote it just like it happened. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't making anything up. It was real. You can see, you're doing road trips. You've always done road trips. So, on a road trip, there's ups and there's downs. Sometimes there's real highs, and sometimes this one had a real high and a real low. And then the rest of it, you're just droning on, looking at I remember going through Nebraska at 95 miles an hour, just seeing nothing but freaking irrigation, machines for like a day. I was like, oh God, this is like, it's almost like torture,
It's like a whole different world.
Oh,
when you get to certain parts of the country.
A couple times, again, remember this was 1985. So this was pre-internet, pre-everything. A couple times we had to get off the. Now we had a AAA. I still have it, the AAA trip book, where you go
Mhm.
page by page and it would get you to the next step.
Yep.
And a couple times we had to get off the road. There wasn't gas, or we were in the interstate in between towns, and we had to get off. And now we're off in like farm country, and we roll up to a gas station. It was like Mayberry, like a little house that had just a couple of old pumps in front. Real old, no, it wasn't changed since the 50s.
Yeah.
So you see some really cool stuff when you get off the beaten path.
I want to talk about those from Trip Way. Used to, it don't seem like it's been that long ago, but it has been over 20 years. But you would go into AAA and tell the little old lady where you're going, and she would pull out all these little maps and map it out for you.
Same thing as triple, right? Exactly.
Yeah, she
And
would.
yeah,
She would
they marked
she
up
would
every
go through and
page.
say construction here, don't go this way, and she would
Right.
mark it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like I said, I saved those maps. I still have them. And I'll tell you, because of that trip, uh, whenever somebody, it's got to be a very rare occasion, but whenever someone says to me, "Hey, I want to go do something. I'm going to take a road trip. You want to?" I'm like, "Yes, I'll go. I'll go," because I know you get the best experiences on those fleeting road trips where maybe they're half baked. Like I said, we were two guys, with a toolbox. And in the tool, there was a CB radio jammed in there, or whatever tools we could carry, and
That's
it
pretty
didn't
cool.
save our ass because we still, we lost an axle, but we couldn't fix it. But you just kind of go out by the CD pants and say, hey, we're in for the entertainment. And so I'm a big road trip guy. Love doing stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. Does he still have the Nomad?
Yes, well, my brother passed a couple of years later. He got in a motorcycle accident. So
Oh,
the car is still in the family. I had it here for a while, and then I kind of iced it over at my sister-in-law's house. She has it at our house, and I want to get my hands back on that car and really redo it. I don't know. I'm kind of it's been sitting outside now, so I don't know. I know it's deteriorated. I don't know how bad.
now you have one too, right?
Yeah, I have. Well, he had this one first, which is I have that one. That one I inherited, and the other one she has. So I was considering getting rid of this one, if I can get my hands on that one, but yet to be seen. We'll see. That story hasn't played itself out yet.
What kind of numbers are you looking at for yours?
I don't know. The car. I was just talking about this the other night after the range. It's a total rat, and it needs a floor from toe board to tailgate, and it's always been a street racer. So it was never going to go. It was never going to be an original car again. It's always been, a street dog. And I got a guy. One of my friends in Queens is interested, and we were talking about it the other night. The guys I was with were saying, yeah, you could probably get probably 5, 6, 7 grand for that car.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's amazing. Since I know it does need everything, but I also know I ran the numbers on it many years ago, and it's an early production. And the way is apparently the trim on the windows. The early ones were stainless, and then they went to a chrome trim, and this was a stainless trim car. So, which is, like I said, this car's never going to be original again. I guess, someone like I shouldn't say that because now I know Mark Warman or what he does. Somebody who is equipped could do it. You'd have to put a ton of metal in this car. It's going to need a lot of panels. But
are they re-popping the metal?
Everything's available. Everything. Really? There's probably some hard parts that are hard, a little more difficult to get. And I would think maybe some of the tailgate parts. I actually know that the hinges for the rear seat, it's a fold down seat. They're very hard to get. I don't think they repop those. But I have a set. I got them with the car. So
what company does it? Is it
there's a couple of dedicated Tri-5s. Don's East Coast out here. There was Eckler's has a division. What was the other one? Oh, they had a brown catalog. There are a couple that were dedicated specifically to 55 to 57 Chevys. Big one. Dam Chuck is another one. Big companies, So it's like buying Chevelle stuff or Mustang stuff.
Oh, really?
It's all available. Yeah, you can literally build a car out of a catalog if you had to.
All right, we might have to talk a little bit offline.
All right. So so that was and then I just happened to mention, I don't know where it came in, but on Sunday again, I mentioned I had this '73 Monte Carlo. I was getting married on the weekend, and that week driving my GTO, and it was a daily driver, and I noticed I started hearing a little clunking noise when I made turns, and my spidey sense was like, all right, I may need a posi unit. I might have wiped the posi unit out. And we were going to go up to PA, Pennsylvania, for a honeymoon. So I didn't want a chance taking the car up to PA and getting stuck. So the kid up the block had this Monte Carlo, and I knew him because I had helped him work on his cars and all. And he didn't have it long, but I had a for sale sign. And I said, hey, how much you want for that car? And we made a deal. And I said, what's wrong with it? He goes, no, man, it doesn't need anything. It's a good driver. I said, well, I'm going to buy this car and take it on my honeymoon. If anything happens, I'm coming back. And I'm looking your ass. So you better tell me straight up. He says, no, as far as I know, I took him on his word, and that car was fine. About a year later, my brother borrowed it to go up to Tarrytown for Porsche training school, and it blew a head gasket on the Taconic Parkway. So that was all I needed, because I got the car back. And then I pulled out the small block. I put the big block in it, and redid the tranny and redid the suspension, and really made it a really, really nice driver.
Yeah.
That's all I needed. That was all the excuse I needed, So those are some of the pictures I posted.
Those 70s cars, man, is just way to go.
Yeah. And those Monte Carlos, that was the colonnade body style. That was when they got bigger. It's really based on a Chevelle. It is pretty much based on a Chevelle platform, but more luxury minded. It was a great driving car. At the time, my brother had a '71 Riviera, the boat tail, and we used to argue all the time who had the longer hood, who had the longer or the heavier doors, and it was just something that we always argued about. Well, needless to say, after he passed, he left. The rib was at my mom's house. I inherited that car too, so I put that one back on the road and I drove it, for a number of years.
Nice.
The rib was a lot. The hoods were about the same. They were very long, like a dining room table, but that rib was very wide in the front. With the Monte Carlo, it was narrow, a little stiletto fenders. It was kind of a really cool design, I thought. But very comfortable car. They were both good cars.
Yeah, the rib. I really like those ribs.
Yeah. And, that wraparound dash. The Monte had kind of a wraparound dash, too, but the rib was even more. Everything was aimed at the driver, very like a cockpit. Very, very nice. The Grand Prix was even the same way. All those cars were along the same line. Excellent. Excellent. Like, my Monte had the swivel bucket seats that they had back then. That was kind of a quirky thing, so you could get in. That was really so you could get in and out of the back seat, because the doors were long, but
short at that end.
I guess they probably could have put a fold up bucket in the car, but it was that high back design. It kind of looked like almost looked like a one piece. Well, it was a one piece seat. What am I saying? And it gave it just a nicer look. So they just swiveled it. And Ford did that back in the '50s, so it was nothing new.
Yeah, they were nice. Let's get the fellas in and see what they're talking about.
All right, let's do it. Enough of me.
Boys,
hey, Becco, man.
How we doing today?
Excellent. Christian.
Sir?
All the boys are here.
How's everybody tonight?
Doing excellent.
Not bad.
Good. That's what I like.
Buddy of mine that runs a food truck just opened a restaurant, and
Really?
It was awesome. I tell you, this guy is kicking it.
What kind of food?
It's Vietnamese blended fusion Mexican thing, and boy, I tell you, it's Vietnamese street food, and I'm going to tell you, man, it's crazy. He's been open for a week, and he still has a line going at the door. Thank God I know somebody.
I'm going back to it. All right, so listen, the question I have is this. So when do you cut the side window in the tool truck and take his food business and make that the secondary?
I tell you, man.
Tacos.
You ain't kidding, man. I tell you, he had And it's so funny. It's three brothers, and they were all, and of course, standing in line. There's people standing in line, and we're out the door. And I've been like telling the wife, it's like, he's going to be over here this week or over there. And she's like, we're not going to go eat at a food truck, are we? And I was like, yeah. Come on, we're going, man. And so I said, that new restaurant there that opened up, that's the guy that had that food truck. She goes, well, I thought it was because he's got like a black and white Art Deco-y with characters throughout, the building or on his truck, so in the building's the same way he's got. And make a long story short, every once in a while you hear him yelling and screaming inside the restaurant, and he's calling out, and I didn't really hear what was going on. Well, when I turned the corner to step in, he's like, it's the Maco Man, and he starts yelling, and I was like, oh, so these are all his people from the truck. He remembers everybody, so he's got these things coming in.
Well, you could maybe do some collections then.
Well, actually, it was kind of funny. There was a few guys sitting there, and they just kind of looked over their shoulder. Luckily, they've been current, so they allowed them to eat in peace.
Nice.
So, but it was awesome. It's great that these guys are kicking it. I know usually the new stuff will wear off a little, but these guys make some killer food, and they're in the fusion stuff. They got like these biscuit things that taste like fried chicken. And dude, when you get done eating one, you thought you ate a bucket of Colonel Sanders. You know what I'm saying? You got grease all over the place. It's crazy. Like I said, it's really good, and I'm super pumped for them. I'm glad they're able to open up. So
that's good,
especially in this world of chaos.
Yeah.
So Ray, go ahead. Go. So Ray, the sub banner is very poignant. There's a reason it says 400 cases of Coors.
Texarkana?
I am still in Texarkana, Texas.
I'm a mind reader. Or I just look at the text that you sent me. Nice.
Was that the one with the hood off and the new camshaft laying there by the front wheel?
Yeah, that was quite an ordeal. Vince sent me a picture of the new truck. That was just another truck, right? That's not yours, right?
No, that's mine.
That is yours. Okay. I wasn't sure.
Motors on the floor. Motors on the floor in the shop, and they're doing a cam job on it.
Your new truck? Your new truck?
Brand new. I picked it up in Little Rock on Tuesday, drove it to Texarkana, got in late, so they were nice enough at the dealership to get me a hotel because of all the crap that I had went through to get the financing and all the legal beagle stuff done. And got up from the hotel next morning, went to the shop, needed a few things done, the road speed because it was a company truck and they had it governed at 65 and stuff. So they were going to make a few changes and tweak a few things. And one of the complaints, because the truck that I bought still had warranty on it, which was one of the reasons I bought this truck. And when I first fired it up in Little Rock, I heard the thing going tick, tick, tick like an exhaust leak. And Lewis will tell you how an exhaust leak on a diesel is freaking, that's bad. So I got down to Texarkana, the actual dealership where I bought it from. And, they looked at it and come back, and the guy goes, well, I got good news, bad news. Good news, we figured out what the noise is. He goes, bad news, it's a cam. And I'm like, holy crap, I just went through this with my ISX and my International. He goes, oh, we're familiar with them too. So they, again, the truck's still got powertrain warranty, still got truck warranty, the full kit, emissions, all that's still covered under warranty. So he says, unfortunately, it's going to take anywhere from 1 to 3 days to get it. So they applied to PACCAR, tried to get me a new long block, but they said, well, because of the wear and stuff,
wow,
it'll work. it'll work with, well, like I said, the guys were doing the best for me because they were trying to go, hey, if we can fix this, let's fix it full Monty and give him a good one. And they said, well,
I'm just curious why they would do how they could get okay for a long block just for a cam.
That metal goes
It goes all
everywhere.
over the
Well,
place.
That metal's all
Yeah,
over
see,
the
that's-
place, and
goes
you
all
better
over the
tell them
place.
to make sure they wash that turbo out, because that's what happened to my dad. His Volkswagen, when it ate a cam, and I told him, I said, make sure they clean that turbo out and the oil cooler for the turbo. And they were like, yeah. He started that thing up, and it sucked it all right into the fresh block.
Yeah.
Fresh motor. He came home. I checked the oil, was all glitter inside. Went right
that has
back
to
up.
be
And they
really
said,
bad.
"Oh,
That
well,
happens.
they go, oh, they got some oil. I mean, it's got some metal in there. I don't know where that came from." And my dad said, "Did you guys clean out, put a new turbo on it?" And they said, "No." The technician said it was okay, and goes, "Well, my son's been so and so done this." He goes, "It should have had a turbo and hose. It should have had the whole 9 yards, everything."
Yeah.
They turned around, put everything new in it again. And then he drove right around to the front and traded the car in.
Oh, nice.
That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do, Vince. When you get your stuff all back together, you just drive right around to the front and say, "I'm going to trade it in on that one over there. Give me the keys, baby."
Well, the thing is, the funny story is how I ended up that it's a Kenworth dealer. It's like, if you're familiar with the Pete store, they've bought so many dealerships and this, that, and the other. Well, it's kind of the same thing. It's not giving them a plug, but it's MHC Kenworth. That's who I bought the truck from, and they have a dealership in Savannah. And I went in there several times to try to talk to the sales guy, and to no avail. So on my last trip down to Florida, I had to run down to Tampa or Largo, Florida, and I was sitting at a stoplight, and I kind of was flipping through some stuff, again, waiting in a stoplight, and I saw a purple T680 Kenworth, and the guy says, "Hey, call Ronnie," and gave him his number and all this, that, and the other. And so I was like, okay, well, next time I stoplight, I said, okay. So I called the fella, and we're chit chatting, and of course, being hands free and everything, I kind of wrote the stock number down, and I told him, I said, what about this truck? So I asked him a couple questions. He didn't know. He goes, "Well, let me go get the keys. The truck's here." He ran out, checked the truck. No, it doesn't have what you're looking for. So he says, "We've got over 800 trucks in our system. Tell me what you want. Let me see if I can't find you one." So, with this truck, I wanted a APU system so that you can run the HVAC without the main truck running. And the other truck only had a bunk heater. So, well, I need something for air conditioning in the summer if I have to overnight and stuff like that. So, now they've got battery powered APU systems. They've got, this one has got a Thermo King unit on it. So again, he found a truck, thought about it for a day or so, applied, did a credit check and all that. By the time all of that paperwork came back, they said, "Well, okay, you're good. We'll work with you." That truck was gone. So being a good salesman, he started digging through the system, and he found this truck that's it turned over 402,000 on my way from Little Rock to Texarkana. So, and like I said, it's still got the factory warranty and all this, that, and the other till at least September. So, that was the whole idea of their shop. Was pretty, really good guys. They jumped on it quick. They pulled it in. They kind of, first thing he told the shop guy, he says, "Pull the oil filter off." Had it right there on the table. We all walked back there, and I mean, I'm with him. We're digging through the pleats and looking at it. Okay, a little bit of shiny, a couple more pleats, a little bit of shiny. It wasn't big chunks, but you could see that it was, it had a little bit of metal in it. And so they said, and they were, "Okay, we know this song and dance." And so, and that's when they started going, pull the pan, check the rods, check the mains, standard stuff. And they said, all that stuff looks good. So obviously, again, they tried with Packard to do a long block, but they're like, it doesn't have a lot of mains. Just, the rods and mains aren't scored up and stuff. So they're like, flush the engine, flush all that stuff out, change the cam, and and go from there. So, and like I said, it's 900 miles back to Savannah. So again, it'll still be covered under warranty of time and mileage. So if it does eat itself on the way back to Savannah, well, then it'll go right to the dealership and go, here you go. Now you can fix it again.
Right. Well,
Right.
hopefully it'll be a good repair.
It's crazy, Ray. That truck being governed at 65 on the ride from Little Rock to Texarkana, being, no trailer bobtail, that truck was averaging over 13.5 miles to the gallon.
Wow. Oh, just a cab.
Yeah, bobtailing.
Yeah, just a tractor.
13. That's cool. That's very good.
13 and a half. But that truck
cars that get less than that.
But that truck does have what they call a full aero package. It skirts almost to the ground and all. I mean, it's got, again, after 55 miles an hour, it's all air game. You're moving and managing air.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Christian, I hope you liked a couple of those bikes and stuff I sent your way. On Instagram, if you got a chance to check those out.
I'll check again. I think I gotta take a look.
There was
again.
like a turbo Hayabusa and some other.
Hey, I like those too.
TTI man stuff. I run across.
I get inundated all day long.
Ray, it was a turbo. Yeah, I try not to blow Ray up because with having so much free time lately, waiting on everybody. I did find him a nice Vega here in Texas.
That was a cool car. I like the V8 Vegas, and then me, I've been like super busy lately, so I've been checking stuff in between working and shopping and painting and.
I would like to.
Too much.
Get a Hayabusa.
Ray, on Long Island, we got a big problem on May 4th. We got 3 car shows happening at the same time.
Oh, I know. And a lot of people, I'll tell you this, some of the clubs I know are boycotting the town show, the one at Nickerson Beach.
Yeah.
The Olds Club, of course, is the second. Those are my guys. That's my buddy Bobby Jones and the crew. What's the third show?
They called me, and then David Dorbecker hit me up the other day. They're looking for judges for the Nickerson Beach, and he was in like a panic, So I found my friend Woody will judge, and then Chris Manfredi from out east here. He used to be with Limbmore Motorsports. He's a big Porsche guy. He was going to go to that show anyway, so he's going to judge. So I can't go because my daughter has something the same day.
Okay.
So I can't even go to in the Long Island Street Riders on the same day.
Oh, okay.
So you got Wicks Road, 5 Towns, Nickerson Beach all on the same day.
The President's Council, we have, just you guys, we have a group here called the President's Council, and what it does is every year they gather all of the car clubs at a meeting.
I talked to Bob Jones the other day. Yeah,
So the intent of this was always that the clubs would come in and present the dates that they were going to have car shows, and then everybody would kind of hash it out so that you wouldn't step on other people. Well, Long Island, we have Nassau and Suffolk County. Suffolk's a lot bigger geographically, but I think there's more people in Nassau. We really need to split it because guys are talking from Suffolk. Like, you know what? You either go to Suffolk or you go to Nassau. You're not really competing. You're not stealing. Bald Hill is stealing from a local show in Nassau. You make your choice which one you want to go to.
Sure.
But it got to the point where there's so many shows now from so many clubs. There's no way to have no competition and nobody stepping on it, and everybody just kind of knows that. But people still complain and bitch about it, which is.
But they're trying to get the Oldsmobile Club to merge with the Nickerson Beach show. They've been doing that for 48 years there.
The Olds has been doing it. They've been doing that show forever as a standalone, and it's big enough. Now, I did my car show at that same field at the Four Town Fireman's Training Center, and I used to pull in 350, 400 cars, and that's a show in itself, man. You don't have to merge out with anything. Now you got what, 1,000 cars? People can't see them all. The thing with Nickerson Beach, because it's a town, is they have all the celebrities. Joe Martin is coming in. Richard Rawlings is coming in. Who else? I've been seeing the commercials.
Well, I saw Chip Foose too.
Chip Foose is coming in, and one other guy, and everybody wants to go and see the celebrities. That's the thing. They want to see the celebrities.
Well, I can't do neither of them, so I'm out. I'm out. And I pulled my trailer out, which has been packed and ready because I'm all the stuff I'm selling, and I'm like, oh wow, I can't.
Right.
Put the trailer back. I'll wait until the next show. But what's really what's really grinding my gears right now is my father-in-law. I've been trying to dig through all of his stuff, and I've been unearthing a lot of things to sell at the swap meets. And this is going to have to do with the Oldsmobile Club. And I called Bob Jones. I'm trying to do something here. Hopefully I can make this happen. I'm down in the backyard the other day, and he's got Model A stuff. He's got a 64 GMC pickup that's like missing the cab, but he still drives it around with just a chassis with a bed on it. It's like it's crazy. He had station wagons down there. There's a half a Cessna down there. I pull up plain parts. I'm like, Jesus Christ. The other day I was down in that backyard and I was moving trailers around, and I look and I see this like cover, like a blue tarp that broke, and I could see a hydraulic ram. Hold on.
If it's odd, a strange Christian's going to find it.
My GMRS radio going off here.
Yeah, I hear that.
So, lo and behold, I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, there's leaves and trees and all this crazy shit. And I see the ram, which looks like it's for a log splitter. So I start peeling the tarp away, and I notice it's a log splitter. I said, oh, wow. But it's huge, absolutely huge. Big ram, a big wedge on it. I mean, this thing looks like it'll split like a 4-foot oak, no problem.
Wow.
So now I'm like pulling the leaves away, and there's like a tarp over another tarp and a pool liner. You know what I mean? You know how the pool liners never work on a car because after time they fall apart?
Yes.
So I see one wheel. So it's got like a little white wall, 14-inch ram, little steel wheel with white wall kind of on it. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, all right, and I'm like moving some brush away, and I find another wheel. And I'm like, wait, I thought it was on a trailer. I said, okay, it makes sense. It's a log splitter on a trailer. But it's like car wheels. And I look and I find the other wheel, and the two wheels are close enough to each other to be like a dual axle trailer, but it's really technically not that close enough. So I look, and all of a sudden I see gauges, and I peel the cover up and I see a motor. And it's a V8.
Wow.
So I'm like, all right, I got to go back up to the house and see old man Fred and be like, what the hell is this thing? I go up to the house and I'm like, Fred, so what's down in the backyard there? What's with that log splitter? He goes, oh, that's an F85. I'm like,
F85 olds. Wow.
I said, wait a second. I said, what do you mean it's an F8? I said, the wheels are, he goes, yeah, I shortened it.
Huh.
I go, okay. So it's a car chassis, you're telling me? He goes, yeah. He said he took an F85. So what he did is he took an F85 and he shortened it. He put the log splitter on the back half of the car. And what he would do is he would take he took the drive shafts and he put it to the hydraulic pump, and he would split logs.
Right.
And then when he wanted to move the log splitter, he would take the drive shaft and move it back down to the rear end. He'd drive it around.
Holy shit, that's ingenious.
It's an F85. It's got aluminum heads on it.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do now is I've been trying to dig this thing. It's got a tree growing through it. I'm telling you, it's classic. It's great. So before I really unearth it, I'm getting my footage, and I want to dig it out and get it on a trailer to Merrick. Put it in the show.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, an F85 log splitter. Yeah.
F85 log splitter. Come on. You think I get a trophy or what?
So did you talk to Bob about it?
Yes.
And what was his take on all of that?
He loved it. I was like, listen, I said, I can't be there that day, but if I could come, because I'm an ex-rinky-dink, so I could talk to Timmy Green and say, hey, listen, I just need to drop a trailer off the night before or something like that, leave it there, And the best part is I won't be there, so no one will know anything about it. They'll just see this F85 Oldsmobile log splitter.
I'm gonna, I should call Bob now and just say, hey, Bob, I've been thinking, man, what you needed to show, because he bangs a lot of stuff off me idea-wise to get my idea. He thinks I'm sane for some reason. I don't know. And I should call him and say, you need like some industrial equipment, automobile powered. You got to get something like that. You think it exists anywhere in the world? Because you'll never find something like that.
I'm not sure if it's the 215 cubic inch. I don't know. It looks like a cast iron block with aluminum heads. But if it's the all aluminum, I'm assuming that it's 61 to 63.
Well, that would be a V6.
It would be a V6.
The aluminum engine was a V6 because that's the one that I always thought would be perfect to put in my Fiat.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. The V6. Okay.
Because it would fit great.
Is that a 215 or smaller?
I think it's right around there. It's right around that.
So what would be the V8? Was it a Buick block with Oldsmobile heads then? Aluminum heads?
I don't know.
Well, I'll get it unearthed it now because I'm just I'm determined. I hope I can get it to move. I don't know if it's going to move. It's probably been sitting there for 40 years.
Well, probably, yeah.
It's like I just want to drag it right onto the trailer and bring it there. Just let the guys figure it out for themselves.
I thought that Buick
the F85 that I saw the other day had the turbo motor.
Brian,
that was a 62. And 62
the guy needs some parts?
Turbo rocket.
Right.
So what was the deal with the turbo? It was like just a
it was a big red turbo bolted right to where the carburetor goes, and it had pipes coming in and pipes going out, dude. It was crazy. I mean, I didn't get a chance to talk to the guy. I want to find the guy because Ray said I find him and get some information. But it was I didn't even take a picture of the car. I'm really bad. I was like, I walked by and I see this F85. What was the jet? What was it? Firejet.
Firejet.
Yeah, it said Firejet on the trunk, and I was like, "Wow, F85 had a little F85 badge, and it had the jet plane, with the
very cool
press,
Right.
And
that's a real oddity, that car.
It was like I said, it was a nice blue. It was a blue colored car. I think it had a light blue interior or something. And I walked around to the front, and I was like, "Holy shit! Look at this fucking motor!" And it was a turbo. It was really weird. So I took a picture of the motor, and I didn't even think about taking a picture of the car. Never seen it before. But the Oldsmobile Club was up there that week, and like I said, there was a a 442, the Chevelle body style, the bubble, 72-ish, I guess, right?
Yeah, from 70 up, they all went to the Coke bottle style.
But it was like a pea soup green.
It had some ugly colors.
And it had a dark green vinyl top and green interior. And that car, I was like, holy crap. And it was super clean, but I tell you, that was color combination. I told the guy, I think I upset him a little bit because I said, all you need is a blue interior, a blue carpet, and it would be perfect for a Porsche, because that's what Porsche did back then. They did all those weird, you'd have a yellow car with blue carpet and green seats, and that was
true. Yeah.
They did all those weird things, and
like
I saw you needed the blue
they
carpet.
Were weird.
So, but that if I could ever find that F85 again, that was an interesting car.
That's cool.
Christian,
what you could do is get that log splitter going, and you could just like split your trees to get the sap out of them. You wouldn't have to tap
he told me, he said, I asked him, I said, well, what's the story? I didn't get the full story yet, but he said that I guess the filter went bad and it locked the motor up. So as far as I know, it's locked up. But I mean, it's just a hunk of scrap, but it's just the fact that what it is, I would just love to drag it out the way it is, bring it there, let these guys ogle over it. If somebody needs the motor or whatever, take the whole damn thing. We're just trying to clean up the yard,
Yeah.
I mean, the more and more there's stuff buried back there, the more I dig through this shed. There's 3 sheds full of Model A stuff, and I don't even know. I can't even give it away.
Yeah.
A whole garbage pail full of Strombergs.
Wow, really? I got to take a road trip.
87s, 97s, you name it, man. I had a whole garbage pail full of them.
That leads
I
into
want a flathead. I want a flathead.
Send that stuff to California.
He's got a
Yeah.
flat. He's got a V860 sitting in a van down there. He's got a van down in the backyard that he's using as storage. Okay. When I first met Allison, that van was on the road. And we had to go up to the Hunter house. I had a house up at Hunter Mountain, New York. So Allison's like, well, take my dad's van. Okay. So I get in this van and I'm like, oh man, this thing was a real pile, but exhaust fumes. Like I'm like trying to can't push the engine cover back up to the firewall because I'm like, man, this is terrible. I gotta drive with the windows open and go upstate. So I'm driving down off, going down 87 or coming off through Brewster there to get on the 684 or whatever. I don't know what exit ramp it was.
Right.
And I'm hanging turns with this van. And I'm saying to myself, this thing's handling pretty good. So I'm like, wow, all right. It's not that bad. So we get up there, whatever. The next morning, I had to go up into the van and start pulling some stuff out to bring down to the house. And I like bump into something and there's a moving blanket. So I'm like, oh, Jesus. So I pick up the moving blanket and I see the one water neck off the cylinder head and I go, it's a fucking flathead. Ooh, excuse me. It's a flathead in here.
Wow.
And I'm like, not only is it a flathead, it's red and it's a V860. So it's an early one. It's probably pre-38.
Wow.
And it's the whole motor from the oil pan to the carb with the air cleaner on it, just sitting under a blanket in the back. And it was right in the back. So the center of gravity of the van was perfect. I was hanging corners. I said, there's a big boat anchor in the back of this thing. And I'm like, I go in the house, Allison, your dad's got a flathead motor in the back of the van? She's like, I don't know what that is. I said, everything's this. There's a half a car in the back of the van. Why did we just drive all the way upstate with all this stuff in here? Like, it's crazy. Well, the van is still parked in the back there with that motor in it. It's still sitting there if you want it. You want a V8?
Like I said, I just wanted a collection. It doesn't have to really. I wanted one to add to my motor collection, and I missed the chance. I had a guy call me, and I had a guy call me and told me I can come get one. And it was by the time I got there, he chucked it all. Scrap metal man came and got it all. But like I said, it's just one of those things.
What's up,
Christian? Why don't you get in touch with H&H Flathead if you got all those 97s and all those Strombergs, because that's all those guys build are flatties. That's all they build.
It's like I had a guy at the swap meet look at all this stuff. He said, it wasn't much he could offer me because some of them were missing, they probably backfired and bent throttle blades and stuff like that. So they weren't all complete. Yeah, but if anything, it sounds good. I could do that.
There's another guy, Christian, Pete Holtz at Rolling Thunder.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a street rod and he was building it. He wanted to put a set of 397s on it. I hooked up with a guy that I met on Instagram, some redneck. I think he's in Georgia, as a matter of fact, and he does nothing but flatheads and 97s. Yeah, and he's all about originality. He doesn't want no Chinese crap.
The Don Garlis Museum, they got a whole wall full of them. It's insane,
yeah. Well, this guy is currently. So Pete bought a full set of 3 and some Lincolns from this guy. He gave him the business, and kept the money here in the country, and the guy really knows his stuff. So I could find his info and get it to you also.
But a lot of 60, I don't even know what they're going for right now. But I can't see scrapping that thing. It's got to go to somebody. So
right, and the original stuff has value because it's original.
Yeah, I was about to say that's what the guys want, the real deal. They don't want the knockoffs. They want if you've got a real deal, old school stuff, it's worth more money than the knockoff stuff is. Because
sure.
I'm going to send Ray something right now to share with you guys because my friend Woody sent it to me. It's something about a French flathead Ford engine block. Have you seen anything of this?
I have not.
All right. So supposedly in the France bought, I don't know if they bought the molds or whatever, but they were making V8 flathead V8s all the way up until the 90s.
Vince, you'll. All I can think about is I got the song In France in my head. The Zappa song.
Supposedly the engine block itself has got a few modifications over a regular flathead V8. Just Google French flathead V8 and you'll see there's certain things with certain holes where a lot of stuff on the original Ford blocks would crack. that the French added material to the block to prevent it from cracking. So really, you want that block. Even to the center main cap in the block has a lot more webbing to it, so it's stronger.
There was a guy that was trying to do a billet block for a flatty, but I hadn't heard anything more. And they even had to put on their website, please stop calling about the billet flatty block. If and when we get one, we'll announce it. But just there because they got so much feedback wanting billet blocks for do a flathead. Ray, didn't Buick do a 215-inch aluminum V8?
That's the one I was just. That was a V6.
No. It wasn't a 6. It was an 8. Because a buddy of mine in Savannah, 215-inch aluminum V8. Because a buddy of mine, when we were kids street racing, his dad had one in a Vega.
Oh, it's gonna be a treat.
That's not the one with the cast iron heads.
It was an aluminum V8.
Well, this motor I know has aluminum heads. I didn't scratch the block yet to see if it's aluminum or not, but I thought there was an aluminum V8. Well, I'll dig into it.
See, hang on, I got the stuff in front of me now. The 264 was from 54 to 55. That was early. There was a 322. That's still early. Those are all nail heads. The second gen nail head was a 364.
Oldsmobile or Buick?
This is Buick. Then the 401, or the 400, then the 425, and then they go into big blocks. But I specifically...
And the 303 was a big block, wasn't it?
Pontiac had a 303 for Trans Am racing. Here's the 215. GM experimental with aluminum engine. They experimented with aluminum engines in the early 50s.
Just went up in value.
Made by Alcoa. And it was 215 cubic inch, 3.5 liter V8 was in the 51 LeSabre and the 53 Roadmaster concept cars.
You know, this is why Fred worked at Grumman. You know, he probably came up with this idea and built that stupid thing at lunch on his lunch hour.
Right.
You know,
Pontiac used the 215 in the Y bodies, the Tempest and the Le Mans, the early ones.
Where would I find any numbers on the block now?
There's an Oldsmobile version also. So yeah, everybody had a version of it. Buick, Olds, and Pontiac all had a version of it. All right.
I might have to call them for a Swarovski helicopter to pull this thing out next week. It's got a tree road. It's got a tree road.
He wouldn't have a 77 Cadillac roof laying around there, would he?
Good Lord, man. I tell you what, you know, if it was earlier Cadillac, yes, he would have had it. The only thing I have left is some headlight bezels for a 56. And Fred had 2 engine blocks, and he had a blower for a caddy because that went to his brother. They're building that right now for a nostalgia drag. So Fred Krause is my father-in-law. His brother Billy is down in Maryland. He races alcohol altered and a nitro front engine drag.
Billy who?
Billy Krause. I forget what they call the car, but there's the whole family. There's Adam Krause is one of the sons, and Timmy Krause that lives up here in Long Island. He runs a alcohol full block altered. He just wrecked that car. He's rebuilding it now. Adam Krause, I think he's running a Super Comp or something like that. So the whole family races.
They're not easy cars to drive.
No. But supposedly they're trying to build this Cadillac. They're going to build a blown Cadillac front end dragster with that block that Fred had. So I had that for a little while, and then that went down to Maryland. But we're finding more parts for early Cadillac.
Went to Maryland, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's where Billy's been down there for a while, and you know.
Whereabouts?
I'm not sure. I know he's close to the track, probably close to Budds Creek, somewhere over there. I could get more details if you need, you know, if he's close by you or something.
Well, that's where I'm in Maryland, so that's the reason why I asked you the name. I mean, I know, unfortunately, I'm terrible with names. I know
That's
a
okay.
lot of people, but I'm terrible with names.
Well, Billy,
He's the
Everybody's
original Maryland man, but the good one.
But it's just crazy because Fred had all this stuff laying around, you know, in the garage. I find so many things. I mean, there's just a lot of, you know, they had a blown flathead. That's what they ran back up here on Long Island back in the day. So there's parts of that car in that garage I'm finding, And the big thing that they ran was Scott's injection. They didn't run the Strombergs. They threw those out. That's why they were in the garbage pail. They were running Scott's injection on that car.
Wow.
Blown flathead with Scott's injection.
Nice.
And he still has it. I have the Scott's injection. I have some of it. I've been cobbling it together. You know, I take it to the swap meet and I show it. I have like the article in the car and everything. People dig it. I have a lot of history I bring out to the swap. I do one entire table just to show people stuff. I don't even sell it. You know, I just show articles. I got old stuff from the 60s, you know, West Hampton and all the old newspapers, the racing news. I got one I'm going to send down to Don Garlitz and have him autograph it. That's for sure. It's a copy of Racing News that's got Don Garlitz on the front cover, setting the record upstate New York somewhere. That's some drag strip that they ran at up there. I forget the name of the place, but it was an old airfield or something, and he went 183 miles an hour there at the time. 62, I think. I got to take a look. But it's cool. It's the old racing newspaper. It's got Don Garlitz all over the front of it.
Cool.
So I got to send that down. When I was at the museum, I was going to bring it with me, but I didn't want to travel with the newspaper. I got to pack it and send it, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I just can't believe they're having the show. 3 shows on the same day.
It's been leading up to that, and the problem is in the early days of that show. Well, actually, Tobey was doing theirs on the day of the old show, and you know, and Bobby and the guys met with them and said, "Hey, you know, what are you guys doing? You know, you're putting us out of business. We're a small local club. You guys are coming in with the town of Oyster Bay and taking Tobey Beach, which is fucking huge, you know, and you're drawing a lot of our cars." And I said to Bob, you know, calm down. I said, step off the ledge. I said, the guys with the Oldsmobiles are going to come to the old show. I said, you're going to keep your core group. You're going to lose some fringes and all. It's bound to happen. But they kept on them, and
they're calling it the dust off, though. They're calling their show the dust off.
I know. Well, that's not Nixon Beach. That's the other town.
This is my problem with it is that guys make stupid decisions. Like if you have a show car and you're going to go and you're going to decide you're going to bounce from show to show, you're risking yourself of getting into an accident because you're running around like a lunatic on that day trying to do all 3 shows.
Sure.
I've seen that happen in the past, you know.
No, regardless, what they did with Tobey was, because I know Ed Muro, he's one of the principals at the Tobey show. I actually do the voiceover for that show. I play it on the radio. They got me as the voiceover guy. But regardless, the Tobey guys, the town of Oyster Bay, relented and said, okay, and they moved their show to Saturday. And nobody wants to do a show on Saturday, and the reason is a lot of people work on Saturday. Or a lot of guys, listen, Saturday I got to do my stuff at home, and I can get the day on Sunday. So Saturday's a bad day. So, but Tobey did relent and backed off. And now they did go back to a Sunday format because they realized Saturday was crickets. But what they do is now they get the old club. They change the date. The old club comes in and judges the Tobey show. And Bob wanted to get me in, and he goes, Ray, I know you're a judge. Why don't you come in and do it with us? I said, can't do it Sunday, dude. I got my radio show. I said,
yeah, you can't. Yes. So, unless Brian takes over.
Yeah, that'd be the only way to do
Brian.
It. So yeah, there's a lot of local politics involved, and the Tobey guys at least worked with the Olds Club and was considerate. The Nickerson guys, they just said no, and they even stole their name. You know, it's been the Long Island Spring, the old Spring Dust Off for like 50 years. And now they call the show the Dust Off.
Long Island Street Ride. Why is Long Island Street Ride doing the same day? I thought they did it in April. And I'm like, I got my trail. I pulled the trailer out. I was all ready to go. And I'm like, wait, why is I didn't have I should know better. I'm a member too. And I haven't really kept up on it. But I was wondering why I didn't hear. Usually I get the thing to say, hey, Friday, we need you to go set. But they used to have it on Saturday.
Right.
You know, on a Sunday or whatever. But, you know, I get the Saturday thing, but it's hard, you know, to run these events around here on Long Island now because there's so much going on. And there's so many little pop-up shows happening now. You know, so you got Tuesdays, you got Thursdays, something going on every day.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about the club politics, the show politics. Everybody started coming back and saying, hey, you know what? why we got to pay $20 to get into these shows to show our car? You know, the people are coming to see our cars, and we have to pay to put our car in there. I said, okay, that's a logic path. That kind of makes sense. I said, you know, they're not going to pay you to bring your car in, though. You know that. So get that. But you're right. People are coming to see your cars, and this club is making the money from the gate, and you have to pay too. I get it. I said, it's just the nature of the beast.
It's $40 for me to vendor, just to
And
be a
if you want to
vendor.
vend, right? Well, vending.
And then
is
when I
always-
do Long Island Street Ride, I got to take 2 spots, so it's $80 for me to vend.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least you have the ability, the propensity to make money and get your money back. As a show participant, you get nothing back. You're going to spend money.
Oh, you got I sell ice to Eskimos when I'm there, boy.
Yeah. So that kicked around a lot. And so what happened is a lot of the local clubs, especially the smaller ones who weren't getting the draw, now every show became a charity show. Oh, it's this charity. And you know what? Who knows if they're all real? I don't think they are. I don't think they're all real. But now that's how they get people in. Hey, it's a charity show. The money's going to charity, be it the president's pocket or whatever. You know, I don't know if they all abide by that, but that's how they. So now there's been so many shows that are all charity shows. People saying, really? You know, people just starting to think and say, I don't think so. I don't know, but people got to go somewhere unless
And
they're
on top of everything, May 4th, on top of that, they're having a soapbox derby up in the Bronx.
Oh, geez.
So I can't even make that. Yeah. So they went that. I can't even. And they won't let me race the soapbox up in Port Jervis because I have to race at one local. And I'm like, there goes everything.
I mean, I'm not a car show guy. I'm a cruise night guy. So I'd rather jump in my car, bring a cigar with me, and I just go.
That's what I'm saying. You're almost better off. That's how it all started for all of my father's friends back then. You know, when they used to meet they used to meet at the body shop. It was just a bunch of lunacy back then. But that started the whole Thursday night thing, which turned into the Friday night thing, technically. Which is, I don't know if these guys are familiar with the show that we have on Friday night. I mean, I don't even go to it anymore. It's ridiculous.
You know? Ray, get you a bottle of Blanton's to go with that cigar.
Get a who?
Get you a bottle of Blanton's to go with that cigar.
Well, that'd be kind of tough when I'm driving. I have to wait till I get home for that. That's a good idea.
That's good stuff. I bought a bottle of it the other day.
No, I've been drinking I found a really good tonic water at Stu Leonard's that actually has quinine in it, and it's a very nice fizzy tonic. It's not a flat tonic, and I busted out my bottle of Bombay gin, cutting up the lime, and having
That's the way to go, huh?
Bombay and tonic. Oh boy, is that good stuff!
I've been giving my liver a break. I stopped drinking 4 months in now.
That's right. I'm taking care of yours for you.
Yeah, I don't know. No.
What's up, Coach?
Lewis, I sent that Hayabusa to you there, Lewis.
Oh, did you?
Hey, no.
Yeah, as well as a bike that Ray liked as well. Sorry to cut you off there, Coach. It was a V8 Kawasaki.
That's
a freaking sweet bike.
It had me at first because I thought it was just a single motor. I'm like, big deal. It's just a single, it's a 4-cylinder carry until I looked at it. I'm like, wait a minute, all bets are off.
That's not one of those million bikes, is it?
No, this is something that the guy was playing with Kawasaki blocks and made a V8.
Yeah, you put two together.
It wasn't Milliard, the guy over in England.
It might be.
That's the guy that uses. He'll cut a block in half with that's him. That's the KZ 1300. That's the V12 right there.
That's the water cooled one, the 1300. Wait, the KZ 13 was a 6-cylinder.
Yeah, that's the V12.
That's a V12. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Milliard. That's over in Barber. You know, he cut that engine block with the hacksaw.
Oh, really?
Yes. You know why? And I'll tell you why. I've tried to do things like that with just using the milling machine, and things get away from you real fast. That guy, he's got so much talent. He takes his time and he cuts and he roughs out he cut one block in half with a hacksaw first. Because when you cut it with the hacksaw, you can go nice and slow, and you can take your time, and then you put it into Bridgeport and you finish it. And that's what he does.
And that's going through
all about that guy.
That's going through a stock tranny and clutch.
Yeah.
That looks like a factory built bike, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So what he used is the fuel injection. He used the KZ 1300 fuel injection, and made the manifold. And he had to move the starter from up top and down below. So he had to custom make a side cover. That was the only glitch. And then what he did, so that's a KZ 1300, has a really weird connecting rod. So he had someone make the forged rods for him. They're beam rods with a slave rod. So it's one crank sharing. So it's a 1 6-cylinder crank, and it's a rod with a slave rod.
So like knife it? Are they knifed?
No, it's a rod that has another rod connected above it.
Oh wow!
It's a slave. They call it a slave rod.
It's
something they do with aircraft.
Yeah, I've seen those setups. They're pretty slick.
He's amazing, that guy. But he'll sit there and cut. He uses that really big hacksaw, and he'll just take a KZ 1000 and be like, yeah, he made the V8, the V8 one, but he'll cut the block with the hacksaw.
500 horsepower turbo booster. Look at that.
I built so many of those. Yeah.
I really want one. My wife won't let me get one.
You know what it is? There's so much available. It's easy to build one.
Does he make a run with this thing?
Should. And it's like stock wheelbase. That's dangerous.
Yeah, that is stock wheelbase. Yeah, that's dangerous.
That's probably like not even 60 inch. That's probably 58 still. Oh yeah. Dual stage.
I got to figure out. I don't know if she's listening, but hopefully she's not. But I got to figure out how to get one in the garage.
I like the comment there. Great beginner bike.
Let me tell you something, Lou. Let me tell you something. When you ride a turbo booster, you find out how bad the brakes really are. It's insane. You know, you need brakes.
I had a GSXR turbo, and had turbo, air shifter, and a nitrous kit. But I never filled the bottle. I was scared of the bike, man. It was
it's a lot.
I only had it a month, man. I had to get rid of it because it was just crazy. That turbo.
The Gixxers are so light, you know. Yeah. So the boosters, quintessentially, the boosters were, you know, they really did so much with them, and such a big span of time for the drag racing that, you know, there's so much stuff available. You can build one of those pretty cheap right now.
See, I'd like to get one. I like the way it stands. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a big, long bike, and I like to have one for that. I don't even really need the speed.
I rode one of the first Hayabusas that came to Long Island, and when they first came out in '99, and that bike was sold to Tom Barney, who was the bassist for the on the SNL show, the band that played on the Saturday Night Live. He bought the bike. So when he bought the bike, he said, hey, he couldn't be there. So he said, hey, when you guys uncrate it, go ahead and you take him for a ride. So it was the copper one. I don't know if you remember the very first Hayabusa was the copper color. Yeah. And I was the first one on Long Island, or basically we got, like the first one, because the truck went and delivered the next one out to Whitey, who was the next shop out east. So we couldn't get that bike out of the truck fast enough and uncrate it, you know. Got the battery. We had another battery already prepped. I went to the technical school for Suzuki to get the lowdown on that bike when it first came out, and the first year, the first generation, the first year Suzuki had the 220-mile clock in it. The fuel pressure in that bike was 80 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very impressive because it had an external fuel pump. So the reason why I'm getting to that is because it was such an easy bike to put a turbo on, because the tank was, it didn't have the fuel pump in the tank. It had a separate external fuel pump, and it had such high pressure so that you could throw Russ Collins had an injector that he made right away for it. And these guys, they were on that like flies, like, you know what, to get those things turbocharged right away, you know. But the first one there, we rode it, and I got down to Meadowbrook, hit about second gear, and I had to back out of it. I was like, this thing is insane.
Well,
why are we selling this to people? What are we doing?
I had scheduled this guy to come on in 2 weeks when we're back, May 4th. Tony Pedro. He also goes by the name Tony Kirk. I don't know if you know him. Great guy. He builds a lot of cool custom cars. He's got a shop in Babylon, and he was a heavy duty street racer, and I think it was a boost. He's got pictures in his shop. He showed me the videos. They used to come in from Queens and bang down into
probably Edison.
I guess down into Freeport. Yeah, but he said they do runs on the Meadowbrook at like the morning, and like he was running. I said some dude called him out, and didn't know him, called him out, and this guy was like, his claim to fame was like he was doing like 160 with his whatever bike he was riding. Tony played possum with the guy, took him to 160, and then passed him, and like left him in the dust. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, the Meadowbrook was tough when they put the light poles in, because they didn't have light poles for the longest time.
I know.
So now forget it. You can't go down the Ocean Park. They put the cable fence in for the bike path.
Well, that's what took out that guy with the Cobra.
Yeah, right. They got decapitated because of that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but Tony was a really hot, street bike guy, and he was going to come on the 4th, but I'm pretty sure he's already committed to the Nickerson show, so we have to reschedule him.
Yeah,
I don't know if he wants to talk about the bike stuff on the air, because it was all obviously.
Yeah, you can't. I dealt with a lot of those guys in the past too. I mean, half of them were cops.
Yeah, and well, he was a corrections officer. Yeah, I mean, he's not doing it anymore. He kind of retired. He says, I'm too old for that shit. I ain't doing it.
They actually had a hand signal when they pass a cop. The cops would hand signal and they would know, okay, I know who that is,
So he, I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if he'll get into any of that on the air. Maybe if somebody who knows a lot about motorcycles in the local scene calls up.
Yeah.
you never know. You may get the guy talking.
On the 4th?
Hayabusa selling for out your way?
What's that, Louis?
The Hayabusa, what are they selling for out there?
I see them go from like a few $100 that are just a pile in someone's backyard, laying around, to probably $6,000 for a decent one. But the turbo kits, there were so many turbo kits made. There has to be Extreme Motorcycle Parts page is what I'm on for a lot of old drag race and stuff. I can find you a turbo kit. I mean, we don't have any turbo kits left here for that.
I just want the bike because I love the way it stands. The size of it. I don't need it to go fast.
No, you can put the turbo on it and just have it like a single stage setup where it's just like 4 to 6 pounds the most boost. That's it. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to do the piggyback with the AMS 1000 control and all that crap. You just get they sell power commanders that were tuned to work with the turbos. Cecil at HTP, I could hook him up. He's probably got some stuff laying around. I mean,
I wonder if I can put a turbo on my Yamaha.
Well, with a motor like that, it's just not really. If you're better off doing a supercharger.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, based off the Venture, I don't know. It's pretty close, but they were making superchargers for the Victories. Mm-hmm. So I would look into whatever that supercharger kit was, because that's probably the easiest way to do it. Supercharge it.
Yeah,
for the
Ray,
Victories,
I saw.
they just have like a belt drive, be done with it.
Yeah.
And then just, it's easy plenum setup,
Yes, I saw a clip the other day, Ray. These two are kind of riding standard formation, slight lead to the second rider to the right, and the guy's got a helmet cam, and they're tooling along, and you can tell it's night. And the guy kind of looks down, and he's got a digital read on a speedo, and it says like 147, 140 something, and they're sitting there, and all of a sudden this blur just blows past him. It's like, holy cow, that guy was flying. Because they were running a $140, and he was gone.
That's actually the fastest I've ever run on Ocean Parkway on my Beamer. It was 140, 143, maybe 144.
Yeah, I was around 150.
Yeah, that's moving. That's fun.
Don't ask me, because a speedo is not accurate after 180.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's just doing this.
Yep.
You can't. You got to GPS it.
Now back when I had my Super Glide, me and my buddy TJ would go out. We both had shovel heads, and you know, at a certain, like over 70, you couldn't even read the gauges. I would just try to remember where I saw the needles like bouncing, so that
Yeah.
when I slowed down, I could reflect back, like, okay, that's what it was ridiculous. Couldn't see shit.
Yeah, you would think with all those systems they would be more accurate, but I mean, the original Hayabusa clock went to 220. Then the federal, when they rehomologated all the bikes, so what they did is they pulled timing out in 6th gear. So the gear position sensor tells the ECU, "Hey, I'm in 6th gear," and when you hit 186, it pulls timing out, so you can't go past 186.
Right.
Ivan's, this guy, he went by Ivan's Performance, made a little, it looked like a little capacitor, and it had 2 pigtails coming off, and it would go in line of the gear position sensor, and it would tell the ECU that you were still in 5th while you were in 6th, and that eliminated that whole situation.
Okay.
So
All right.
Wow.
they used to call that the TRE. So, you know, prior to those days when those existed, they used to be like on the older Suzukis, it was like there was a wire that you had to cut or something. And I remember guys coming in, come on, wheelie wire, man. Come on, wheelie wire, because they couldn't wheelie the bike, you know, and then you go in there and you find that little pink wire with the white tracer and, you know, cut it. That's, man, and go out and ripping wheelies, leaving the shop, you know. But Suzuki always tried to pull it away from people, you know, because they knew they would get out of hand. But, you know, they figure it out so fast. But electronics now run everything, man. You can't.
When I get my KZ done, I wouldn't mind putting a small turbo on it with, you know, 4 or 5 pounds, nothing crazy, just.
I have some of that stuff here. I got like an old Ray J that has like a suck through for like a Bendix. You know, it's like a suck through system.
I remember when Arthur had those in the early days back in Precision.
It's the turbo days.
He was putting them on the freaking on the Beamers, on the the airheads. And but that's going back in like the late 70s.
And the only thing I got left here in the shop is like a couple boxes of old Mr. Turbo stuff from the 80s, you know.
That's a name I hadn't heard in forever.
Terry Kaiser?
I hadn't heard that. I hadn't heard that. Mr. Turbo. I hadn't heard that name in forever.
You know, I worked with him quite a bit in the early days, you know. Terry was one of, you know, Jack's riders for a long time, you know, and Terry was he's cool, you know. He was a madman though, boy. He could ride. Holy shit. Yeah, he was good. But, you know, he's still around. He's down in Texas. Yeah, look him up. He's still got a shop doing some stuff.
Well, which is crazy. Texarkana right now.
I could take an old Ray J 301 that I got upstairs and probably send him half the stuff, and he would throw it together for no problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was his. Those were the days for him, you know. But
Ray,
there's so much experimental stuff upstairs I got laying around, old wastegates and stuff they were playing around with, which was cool. You know.
You get that stuff on that Buick, Ray?
Yeah, I see the site. Yeah, I kind of pulled that up. I found that kind of independent. Yeah.
Like I said, I remember the first time I met that guy, and he was tooling around, and like I said, it was in his dad's Vega, and he cracked the hood, and I went, "Wait a minute, that's not a 4." And you see it, and it's like 1, 2. So that's a V8, and he goes, "Yeah, it's a 215-inch aluminum V8," and they ended up putting a Rover in England, in the UK, started using that motor.
Yeah, Rovers.
And used it for quite a lot, quite many more years.
Right.
I'll get that thing uncovered. I'll look at it more closely. Hopefully Saturday I'll get over there. I gotta try and drag it out a little bit and peel away and get to the motor a little better and see what that is then, because I have no idea. I know it's got aluminum heads on it. That's all I can see so far.
I'm just looking on the other side. It says here, rights to the engines were purchased by Rover and used in the 67 Rover P5B. It replaced the 3L straight 6 Rover engine P5.
Oh, Ray, you got that? You got the thing with the flathead I sent you?
Yeah.
Okay, share that with the guys.
I have to hang on.
When you can, yeah, just share that, because that's a really interesting. Because talking about surplus is that, I guess I'm assuming that Ford sold some of the molds to France, and France was using the V8, maybe because the motors were they weren't as, I guess in France they didn't need high horsepower engines and stuff like that, but the flathead was a perfect platform. But they were making the castings, they were doing it there, and they were making them stronger. And you watch that YouTube video of that guy, and you see the differences of the water holes and all the stuff, all the problems that the Ford flatheads had, they fixed.
Well, you know, flatties were known for making good torque.
Right. So they use them in trucks there. So whatever their trucks were, I forget the name of the truck. He says it in the video. Things are even to the exhaust passages and everything. How it's way better block to build. That's if you're doing a flathead V8 from right here, that's the block to get. And there was enough of them out there that's still out there. That's all I can tell you. Hey, Ray, you remember Englishtown? Didn't we used to see a blown alcohol flathead run, a Fiat Topolino altered excavator? The excavator?
That sounds familiar, yeah.
All right, I'll look into that. That is the motor. That's who was talking about a billet flathead?
I was I forget the company that was doing it, but they were looking to build or they were in R&D to try to do a billet flatty.
This is the guy.
And what's that there? That's him weight. Yeah, this is him weight. He weighs the blocks because the blocks weigh more. You could go a little further to where he gets into the details of, like, you can see he's got the reliefs in it and everything. It's an amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool,
Even with the bell housing,
out.
like it's pretty wild. And he's got the old timer there. You see the Arden.
Wow, I had Arden heads. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's got 3 blocks, and then that's the French one there, and he starts weighing everything.
241 pounds. Yeah. Wow, 241 pounds.
French.
Jeez, who would have
So you see the water holes between the cylinders, and that perfectly round. The holes, they have that little piece there. That's extra material to keep it from cracking there.
Okay. Yeah, look at all those blow shop boxes. Jeez.
Yeah.
He's got a ton of them.
Yeah, my friend Woody just turned me on to this, and I was blown away when I watched this. I go, wow, this is I never. But he speaks of the truck that they used in this. So you see the holes? They don't look like a full circle.
Yeah.
That's where they added material to keep it from cracking.
Right.
Look at that Arden head block in the background.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the blower.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, that guy right there that's on stage, he's a well-known engine builder from way back in SoCal.
Yep.
He's been doing it for a long time.
You're going to see he's going to flip the block upside down. You'll see that main center cap. So you see how the holes around there?
Yeah.
And the other one, it's not.
Right.
It's almost like a tear shape.
Yeah. And he even says, like, the exhaust ports. See, now he's sticking his fingers up. He's passing pipes up through there. When they cast it,
That's just because he couldn't get a date for Friday night. Come on.
Yeah.
Go out to his flag.
He's talking about how he's talking about how the exhaust has to go like 90, 90, 90, 90, and then out the block.
Yeah. Right.
And it's just like,
look at how tiny.
Because I think I've actually seen bits and pieces of this video.
Look how small those bores are, boy. Those are tiny.
Yeah.
That's it's like half warehouse, half shop. Yeah, that's the original.
Yeah, that's why you
check
stick
this
the
video out.
pipe up through there.
Yeah.
But you see that center main right there? That thing's beefed
3
up.
mains, yeah.
But that center main is more beef. It's way better. Now, how did that guy run that altered back into Englishtown? That was a regular block.
Yeah.
No alcohol. It had to have like a girdle in there or something on the lower end. I have no idea.
Yeah, because there are only 3 mains.
Man, look at that Arden. Wow.
That's gorgeous.
That is unbelievable.
It's a beautiful motor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, see the webbing on that main? It's just way better.
That guy that was running that that race car, you don't know what he did in the middle of the night when nobody was watching. So
Right.
he could have welded something up in there or done something.
I'm sure he did. Yeah.
But we used to see that car a lot, though, run there, the excavator.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I have pictures
behind
of
closed doors in the middle of the night, you'd be amazed what goes on.
Yeah, that block that he keeps showing is ported, as they say, ported and relieved, because you can see the path from the intake. As the old Beach Boys songs talks about it being ported and relieved and stroked and bored, and that's because a stock flatty would just, wouldn't that all those carve outs right there feeding up into the intake and exhaust ports wouldn't be there. All that's just flat.
Well, it worked for John Dillinger.
Hey, he liked the Fords. He even wrote a letter to Mr. Ford saying his V8, he could outrun all the cops.
V8 Ford is great. Yeah.
So this I found interesting, though, is I think they were still producing these blocks up into the 90s from what I thought he said in there. So don't quote me on that, but that's something I have to go back and listen to, because they were using those in the trucks over there, just because I guess they were that reliable. And he's talking about like the valve guide heights there and all that.
Hey, depth gauge out of a piece of pipe. That's cool.
Yeah, well, you just get the difference between the regular Ford and the French Ford. I guess you could call it a French Ford.
Ray, you ever seen how they put valves in those things?
I have not, no.
Oh.
They put it all together as an assembly, and you feed it into the block, and then you have to push it in, and there's a clip inside the valley that you have to kind of hook it and get it clipped into, and it's funny. You can tell the old timers who worked on them, because they're like blip, 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 and they're just bopping them off.
Stock main cap there. See that stock main cap? Now look at the webbing on the French one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, so
definitely got more beef in it.
Oh yeah, just so huge.
That's what it was like 11/16 nuts or 3/4 inch nuts.
Oh, and that's the other thing he said too with this block so it's all SAE. It's not Wentworth. It's all SAE.
Good.
And the other thing too is the water. So on a regular flathead, you know how the exhaust bolts go into the water jacket, so you got to put sealant on the bolts and everything.
Yeah.
So they talking about how they run studs and stuff, but I think the French block, it doesn't go into the water passage.
That's good.
For the exhaust manifold.
Yeah, that's Ed Smith, that guy that they keep showing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's up. Steve Kopak and Ed Smith.
Yeah, that's Ed Smith right there in the white and blue shirt. That's Ed Smith. That's, like I said, he's been around forever.
Ed Smith's
really knowledgeable engine builder.
Cool.
Well, when I saw it, I had no idea. And the thing is, like, when you see those castings and you go, oh, wow, wait a second. And I guess the threshold of, like, when Indian Motorcycle sold stuff over to England when they were doing I have two Indian Braves motorcycles, but they're really Royal Enfields, because Royal Enfield was taking the Indians and repopping them, but putting their Enfield engines in them. So it looks like the Indian because it's the same tin. So, England bought the stampings to make the tanks and the fenders and stuff, and it's just crazy that era of 53 when everybody was just selling out. I guess, I don't know, maybe after the war we had that boom, and then 53 we went into other things. Is that what happened?
I just put the link up on the chat on the comments side there, so if anybody wants to copy it.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to share that with you because I thought that was pretty cool. Thank you to my friend Woody.
Oh, no, that's cool stuff. Thanks.
I got a question. So earlier you were talking about the Range Rover V8s. Is that the ones that were Buick made and then they sold them to Range Rover?
That is correct.
Yeah, that's what we're just talking about. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
See, that's weird because I had a Willys Jeep upstate. It was a 67 Willys, and it had a 225 nail head in it, and that came in that. That's what it came with. And when I got the Jeep, we bought it from my neighbor down the block at a garage sale. And when I popped the hood, it had an HEI distributor in it.
Wow.
And I was like, well, how does that work? He goes, it was out of a 231. They just put the HEI, drop it right in a 225 Buick. I'm like, all right, cool. It ran. Still had the oil bath filter on and everything, but I guess Willys was sourcing engines from all around. So how many of those are out there? Because, you know, I was having that discussion the other day with the Buick nailheads. There's not too many of them out there because a lot of them got used to fire up the airplanes in the war, right? Isn't that what was going on?
Yeah.
That was like the thing that the Army bought all the Buicks up because those were the only engines that could fire up a B-29 or something when that blow up. You heard of that?
Yeah, that's an old story I heard of. Yeah, they were basically using them as an APU or a way to spin them to get them to going. And I remember the guy talking about all kind of stories about stuff getting locked, and all of a sudden the motor would pick up, and the nail head was still engaged. So the turbine engine is running 20, 30,000 RPM, and it would just blow the nail head to pieces because it was locked direct drive. All kind of crazy stories. He said they went around every junkyards and bought every nail head they could find because they were blowing them all out there trying to start these planes.
Yeah. Wow. So that
Crazy stuff.
Why those things are so rare then.
Yeah.
Well, Ivo had the 4 of them on his all-wheel drive 4-engine Buick Dragster. That was a cool ride.
Oh, yeah.
Coach,
Yeah, but what about quad out with the 4 Allisons? Sorry,
What's
Luke.
up, Luke?
go ahead, finish what you're asking the question.
So I read an article. It's been years, but I heard something about it. But was it that Buick was having trouble with those motors, and then they gave up on them, and Range Rover bought them out, or what was the deal with it?
I think Rover was looking for a better, more powerful engine. Because that was kind of the problem I had always heard with some of the Range Rovers was they were just so underpowered. You know, they wouldn't get out of their own way, and people are going, "What the hell? This thing's a pig." It literally, you know. So they were looking for a light power plant that made more power than what they had, and they said the dimensions and being aluminum said it worked for them, and it, you know, they weren't looking for like 400 or 500 horsepower. They just needed more than whatever their inline sixes were producing.
Yeah.
Well, what was the inline 6 that they had?
Christian, that I don't know.
That was I just read that before. I just read the thing on the 6.
I'm not a Rover expert. I remember that, like I said, that Buick made them, and that they ended up in Rovers because, again, they were looking for a more modern power plant was what they said. So.
But I never see Rovers anymore like that around. I mean, you used to see them every once in a while at a gas station, right, Ray, with a plow on it or something.
Yeah, you'd catch one. Yeah, somebody would have one at an old station. Yeah.
But that's getting rare too these days,
Sure. Yeah.
I got
or
a
Willys,
I got a Rover Jaguar shop. That's all. Tomorrow, that's all I'll see. I'll send you all the pictures you want to see.
Wow, really?
They're all over.
Wow.
The guy goes out to the hills of overseas and buys these things off of the farms for nothing, brings them over here, throws leather interior in it, buff it out, and sells it for a mint to the money guys.
Got a nice little side business.
I've seen a handful out here, but one of the car shows, the one I saw, was pretty nice. It was in good condition, but it had an LS in it.
Yeah, there's a couple of them running around here, Rovers with LSs in them.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind getting a Toyota Toyota 4Runner. The first gen.
Yeah, the old 4Runner, right?
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, you can find those.
My
out
dad
here.
had one. He flipped it over on the Meadowbrook.
Really?
Yeah. He was getting off the exit ramp. He hit black ice and he flipped over. He had the in-car camera in there too. He got it all on video. I got it on video. You see him like, well, everything get flying around inside, landed back on the wheels, and he was like, "Wow, what happened?" And he still drove it for a little while. It was all scraped up on the hood and whatever. But that thing took a licking and kept on ticking, boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had my hands on so many Jeeps, like with inline 6s with those iron cast iron with the aluminum head, or I'm trying to think of a Ford that had an aluminum head, inline six, that came in like, I don't think it came in Mustangs. It was like in the Ford vans, the early 80s Econolines or something. But
Well, the trucks, they like to use either the 250 or the 300. And 300, I don't ever remember aluminum head on the 300. I mean, I've seen, there's one guy that has taken LS heads and cut them and welded them and has got it on a 306. What else?
So we're not worried about weight savings with a 300.
Another guy, Ray, took a Cleveland set of V8 Cleveland heads. Same thing, cut them and put the thing together, and it's a 306 with Cleveland heads, or a head, because he's welded it all together.
Oh, you know what? There's an Instagram page devoted to that. I think I know who you're talking about. All right.
That'd be an interesting one.
Hey guys, let me shut down the service here. Let me shut down real quick, and then we can go to after show. All right, hold on 1 second. Oop, wrong guy.
Brian's gonna take us out.
Hey everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for watching us on YouTube Live and Facebook Live. Please tell everybody that we do this every Thursday night live, and we talk about anything, as you can see, anything about cars, gas, anything you put gas in, we talk about it. All right, people, see you next week, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.